Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm Bill Whittle. It is a special Saturday night edition, and as usual, we're going to go over and grab our friends on Twitch real quick, so let's do that. Hey, hi, ho, everybody. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. It is a Saturday night. SATUR. Bay City Rollers, right? Yeah, I actually like that song quite a lot, strangely enough. Thank you for joining us. We got a special show here tonight. We have been getting, several weeks in a row, I had to push the questions. And then last night I got on a bit of a roll, and so we started late, and I didn't want to push the questions again. So we thought we'd just do a special Saturday night show, kind of get caught up on the forum and everything else. Hello, Bamboo. Good to see you. People are asking to see the shirt. Just a simple little thing. I just threw it on. Just a kind of a cool little black bowling shirt. So I've decided, actually, since I was asked, I didn't lead with this because that would be vain and prissy, and God knows I'm enough of that. So I decided what I wanted to do. I was just, I was scrolling through Facebook, which is a problem for me, getting that dopamine addiction thing. But I saw these kind of cool retro, bowling shirts from the 50s. So I ordered those, and then of course once you order something on Facebook or anywhere online, they basically Google assumes that you want to start a museum of retro 50 shirts, and you see nothing but commercials for retro 50 shirts every other swipe for months. So I got shown a lot of shirts. I saw a couple of really cool polos with they're on their way, so you'll see them. And then I saw some really kind of elegant long sleeve shirts with kind of cool patterns. And I just decided, I'm going to try and up my game here in 2025. So what I was actually thinking I would do is, I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. It just seemed like a cool idea to kind of key the wardrobe to the show. So I thought I'd be doing these shows for Saturday night, for Stratosphere Lounge, because it's kind of informal. And then these are really striking polos, probably the same quality of these shirts. They look great. I just thought they were cotton shirts. They're just highly synthetic, probably triple knit, quadruple knit polyester with a print on them, but they look good on camera. And so I thought I might do the kind of polos for the hot mics, and then these really elegant long sleeve shirts for Story Mechanics. To be perfectly honest with you, I was thinking we would be broadcasting from the Story Mechanics set tonight. But I just plain ran out of time. It was pretty close. Yeah, I thought it looked like a referee shirt too. That was my first impression when I just glanced up at the monitor. It's like personal foul, defense, number 68. So anyway, Duke McMahon says my dad calls those Charlie shirts because there has them in every episode of Two and a Half Men. Well, I got Tiger blood, baby. I'm winning. Boy, that was a fun time, wasn't it? When watching Charlie Sheen lose his nuts, his mind, his marbles, his beans, his peanuts, all of that. He just plain lost it. Hey, look at that. That's so impressive to me. Hi, Margaret. Margaret Amundsen on YouTube is saying Sunday afternoon here in New Zealand. Welcome to Los Angeles, and best to all of our friends down in New Zealand. Go Kiwis. I was visiting. I spent in 1998. It was 1998. I spent 3 months in Brisbane, and I was visiting my uncle, but he ended up having to go on the road a lot because he was teaching. He was he's a jet engine engineer, but he's British, so as he liked to say, he's a gas turbine engineer. Very, very impressed that his little sister married somebody named Whittle. That was a big deal for him because Frank Whittle invented the jet engine. But in any event, I spent a fair amount of time at home with my Aunt Pam, and so watched a lot of telly. I don't think they call it telly in Australia, but they do it in Britain. So anyway, I'm doing the best I can. And saw a rugby match between Australia and the All Blacks, New Zealand All Blacks. And I'm just watching the beginning of this thing, and everybody's getting ready to go. I mean, people who like rugby say that American football is just so slow and stuff. But American football is just extremely intricate with lots and lots of strategy and counter strategy and moments of just breathtaking suspense when that ball is spiraling towards the end zone. With 4 seconds left on the clock. It's just a terrific game. And I after I watched enough rugby, I thought rugby is really just an hour-long fumble, is what it looks like to me. Just like an hour-long fumble recovery. Anyway, the All Blacks came out and lots of Maoris and stuff, and I'm sitting there, and I thought they're about to start the show, and then all of a sudden these guys line up and they did this dance. I said, my God, what the hell is this? And my Aunt Pat said, that's a haka, and I said, it's a what now? It's a Maori war chant designed to intimidate your enemies. And I saw the All Blacks do this haka, and I honestly thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I have a couple of go-to things if I'm having a kind of a bad day, depending on the mood. But one of my go-to things is I just go look at hakas. I just love them. I just think they're so cool. And I know a little bit about Pacific Islander culture, and they're certainly not unique in this regard. A lot of Americans did this. Sometimes they call it flower war, or catching croup, maybe. That's from way back in my sociology days. But a lot of times, indigenous people would have wars of intimidation, almost like it's really similar, kind of like to like a drumline face off or a dance off, where there's not really much intention of actual physical violence. It's just a question of who can we agree put on the most intimidating show. But the haka. And it was a great haka too, by the way. I've seen a bunch of them, some stronger than others, but that was just freaking phenomenal. So, Margaret, I got to tell you, it impressed the daylights out of me for New Zealand. Plus, the All Blacks are just really cool, because they're just an All Black. In fact, this looks very much like an All Black jersey, because if I turn these into little ferns, I'd practically be on the team. Start the hockey. It was great. It was fun. Yeah, and Roadrunner over in Twitch says that a bunch of guys called Real Men, I think they were called. There was a trans parade in somewhere in New Zealand, and something like, I don't know, I saw the video, I will say 30 maybe, 30 guys, almost, I think virtually all of them Maoris, lined up opposite the oncoming gay pride parade, and they all had shirts that said Real Men, and they just did this counter protest. They just stood in the road and did this frickin' haka, and it's like, I don't know, man. I was better part of 9,000 miles away or something, and I was like, I don't want to mess with these guys. But of course, the police are on the side of the protesters. It's still a little left leaning down there. Sure is pretty though. So anyway, there's that. Yeah. Yeah, Marisha said there's this Aussie chick that did a haka in Parliament. It was really cringe. That's not something I've seen women. I don't really want to get into this again because I'm developing this reputation as this horrible misogynist only because I just happen to believe in gender roles, traditional gender roles. But I've seen women do a haka, and it's more of a hika. It's just not. It's just. The thing about the haka is these gestures and the stance. There's this wide stance and this foot slamming on the bum, 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 and it's designed to intimidate guys with spears. And I didn't even have a spear, and I was intimidated. I'd be less intimidated if I hadn't lost my AR-15 in that tragic boating accident. And with 30 guys there, that'd be 10 combat reloads here in California. But that's why you can never let them get into close range, you see. Gotta keep ranging these things out, like we talked about last night with the destroyers and missiles and all the rest of that stuff. Marisha said it's not because she's a woman, it's because she's cringe. Well, Marisha, I've seen 30 women or rugby side do it, and these are professional athletes, and it's still cringe. So it just, it's like somebody played the haka through like through a telephone receiver. All the lows were gone, just nothing but the highs. So anyway, that was that. Brits versus Zulus. Marisha's everywhere. He or she. The cat's out of the bag. I'm so used to saying her. Marisha Dark has been here for a long time and had done apparently sociological experiment to see how he was treated with a name that certainly leans a little female, but it's actually a he. And anyway, Brits versus Zulus. There's the movie Zulu was Michael Caine's first movie, I think, first starring role anyway. And it's a story of Rourke's Drift, which is kind of like the Alamo, but the good guys win. I'm not even saying the good guys. The thing is about that movie that was so revolutionary for its time. Let me just move a light here. Hang on a second. Will you do it? Will you? Will you stay there, Sam? I am. What was so revolutionary about Zulu was that it was 64, I want to say, 1964. And it portrayed the Zulus very, very, very accurately and with a great deal of respect. Because prior to Zulu, any movie that was made about Africa, it was Ooga Booga with bones through their noses and stuff. And these guys were genuine, authentic Zulu tribesmen. And the story of Rook's Drift's just amazing. It was, I want to say it was the British 24th Regiment of Foot. That sounds about right. The main body of the British Army that was to track down Shaka Zulu and put down this rebellion. The main body went out after Shaka, and they camped at this foot of this hill called San Luana. So the main body out there is, where the bulk of the British Army is. And they left a detachment of like 100 guys at a river crossing called Rourke's Drift. It had a little hospital complex in there. It was just a little settlement with a couple of, minor little walls, just a little two-house compound. And so the Zulus, unrepentant savages that they are, ran for 3 days straight because they could. Just not just jogging. I mean, these guys just could run for 8 hours, just run. Snuck up on the British, massacred them at San Luana. A couple of messengers got away on horseback, let the guys know at Rourke Drift that the entire Zulu nation is on its way down and flushed with victory and screaming for blood. And the two, there were co-commanders there. One guy named Royal Engineer named Chard, and John Chard, I think, and then I think a regular line officer named Bromhead. And Chard had seniority by like 2 days or something. So Chard decides to make a stand for it. They start lining up all these mealy bags of grain and stack up this thing and prepare this fortification. Anyway, long story short, something like 150 British men surrounded by 8,000 Zulus. And they kept attacking and attacking and attacking over the course of 2 days, and the British held them off with their single-shot Martini Henry rifles with a bullet the size of a walnut and single cartridge. So you didn't have to, it was a breech loader, but no magazine. So you had to keep putting these rounds are like size of a freaking pickle. And these guys fired 100 rounds. Their shoulders were just, hamburger. But I guess if you got a bunch of Zulus coming your way, you're probably going to worry about the shoulder afterwards, because they were very, very dedicated soldiers. Anyway, point of all this was, so we were talking about the Haka. The Zulus they would sing on their way to battle, and during the charge they had like a kind of a song, an attack song. And it's the climactic scene of the movie, and it's one of the best sequences in cinema. In fact, sorry about that. In movies, it's just an old habit. Sorry, it was just a reflex from my old days. I apologize. I sincerely apologize. I really did not mean to say that. I take great care of my language on the show, and so I never meant to say the C word. I'll try not to say it again. But in the scene where they're attacking, the Zulus are attacking, and Chard is looking around. His guys are terrified. There's 100 guys. There's 8,000 coming this way, and Chard basically starts telling his men to sing. So they sing "Men of Harlan," which is a Welsh kind of fighting song, and they've got this scene where this gigantic army is just running at full sprint towards this barricade compound, and the Zulus are all singing their war song, and then you hear the Englishmen, the Brits, I suppose I should say, since it's a Welsh song, are singing Men of Harland, and it's this clash of songs, and it's just freaking phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And then the Zulus run into this. The immovable, the irresistible force hits the immovable object, and the immovable object wins. But that little sequence of 3 minutes is phenomenal. And then the British fall back, and then he says, "Oh, fire by ranks! First rank, fire! Second rank, fire! Third rank, fire!" Meanwhile, the guys are reloading. First rank, fire! And it's like battleships, just these volleys of just rounds of 50, 60 rounds at a time, and they're just cutting them down. And it's a tremendous piece of movie making. And I actually thought maybe I might do this just to mix up the walk-in, because we changed the walk-in for the Monday night show. We went to 70s and 80s nighttime TV shows mostly. And I wanted to do a just as a walk-in, just to keep it there, like a collection of maybe of like my five or six greatest moments in movie history, and that would be one of them. The helicopter attack scene in Apocalypse Now is the first thing I think of when I think of the greatest movie sequence ever filmed. And there are a few others. The dropship sequence on Aliens is awfully good. Anyway. After the show last night, we did a Friday night show. Indiana Jones versus the Swordman. It's so funny you said that, Dave Big Boutte, because I was going to mention that too. Maybe the end of Jaws when you come on, you son of a bitch. It was. Yeah, it's like the Light Brigade in reverse. Yes. Anyway, just to wrap the story on Rourke's Drift. When it was all over, there were more Victoria Crosses awarded for that engagement than any other single engagement in the history of the British Empire. I want to say 24, something like that. 20 Victoria Crosses. That's like 20 Congressional Medal of Honor, citations for one battle. Absolutely amazing. Really amazing. So anyway, that's that. And Stephen Brooke in our YouTube stream appears to be speaking Welsh, and that's impressive. They economize on the vowels, I've noticed. Probably just not good vowel growing area of the British Isles. So anyway, David Booty says it sounds like Iwo Jima, except Iwo Jima was roughly 30 days, right? Roughly. Rourke's Drift was 36 hours maybe. So, yeah. Anyway, that's that. Something happened. I just had some carrots. It might be something that simple. But I noticed this last night. Maybe it's these glasses. I haven't got the new prescription yet. These are kind of temporary glasses while they put the new lenses in the old frames. But my vision, and driving home last night too, my vision has just suddenly gotten really sharp, which is nice. Somebody asked about Bean earlier. It was a Catterday thing. Bean had a good day today. Yesterday, not so good. The trend lines are the trend lines. There's no reversing entropy, but when he has a good day, it makes me happy, and I spend as much time as I can with him. So I've been doing that, and that's been great. So we'll see. It's the thing that's so tough about it is you have to. There's going to come a time, and it's not going to be very long from now, when I'm going to have to make that phone call. I had done a number of times taken our pets down to the vet's house to say goodbye, to the vet clinic, but they have people who will come to your house, and I find that to be a lot less stressful for everybody. And it's like you don't want to make that call, and and I do notice that I have noticed in the past that that these friends of ours, they can't speak, but they do seem to have a way of letting us know. I've always found that there comes a time, it's like, okay, I don't want to, I want all the time I can possibly get, and carry them to the. I haven't had to carry them in the litter box. I will if I have to, but there will come a time, um, and and you don't want to pull that trigger too late, and you don't want to pull it too early, and it's it's just uh, it's what they cost. I was talking with Shelley about this, who lost her very, very beloved pet dog a couple months ago, who'd been a companion for 15, 20 years, and I talk to people all about this all the time, and it's what they cost. Anyway, I don't mean to bum everybody out. It's Saturday night. It's time to party, so why don't we do this? Just before we get into the comments, I mean on the forum. Yes, I remember very well Get Jazzed, and I, it's. I mean, I don't want to. I'm almost at the point where I've thought about this so much that I'm almost. I don't want to say I'm ready to celebrate it because it just sounds so new agey, but I just had to deal with it so many times. I've just come to the point when it's like, that's the deal, man. You don't have to go through the pain if you don't have the pet. So, if you do, you do. So which would you prefer? Would you prefer that you never had the dog or cat and you don't have to deal with this on this day, or was it worth the trade? And it's obviously pretty much worth the trade. So anyway, so let's see what we can do. Eric Blake says there's a dog we had since I was 4. Colby was his name. We grew up together, having to let him go as hard as all get out. Yes, I grew up with a dog named Spot, and yeah, little boys should have dogs when they grow up. Yep. Stout Cat says choose the love of a pet and take the pain of the loss. Yes, and so and I've had counselors, I've been in therapy before, and occasionally, don't generally go to therapy because you're having too much fun. Oh wow, Marisha Dark says, "What is grief but love persisting?" That's a tremendous quote. The but a therapist said, sadness is as real as happiness, and it's as important. Everybody wants to avoid sadness because it hurts, but it's like that's life, man. That's you are alive. Feel it, So anyway, that's a great line. That's a profoundly good line. What is grief but love persisting? It's from Mercia said it's from WandaVision. It's hard to believe that a modern TV writer could write a line that deep. That sounds like Tolkien or C.S. Lewis or somebody. Okay, let's see what we can get here. So we're going to catch up tonight. Keep it relatively short. Working on a project with Natasha, one of her projects. Not going to say any more about it, but we're going to work on it tonight, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it when we finally release it. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to go to Firefox because it just seems faster. Yeah, why not? Let's do that. No. Boy, that baby just loads. I don't know why my Chrome browser is so slow on my website. I want to optimize the website, and okay, Stout Cat, good seeing you. Come on, baby. It's better, but it's still not great. Okay, so we got the same stream, so I remember where we dropped it off. We got a question about Gen Z, as I recall, so... But the back end on this site is so slow. I don't know why. Got a lot of graphics. Roger Ramsey says, I lost my 13-year-old black lab Molly a year ago, February 11th. Yeah, we remember the dates. Still miss her, but I'm sharing my couch with Maggie. A 4-month-old black lab that I got January 30th. Yes, it really does help. And, you know, when I think about it, it's like I miss Texas so much. Texas was just a really personal cat. And it just broke my heart when he died in 2010. But if he hadn't died in 2010, if he'd lived as long as I had, then I never would have gotten beaten, you know. So there you go. Waco with a super chat says, "Did Shelley tell you about our exchange?" Yes, she did. She mentioned it, and I got the basics, but I probably need a refresher course from her, so I will take a look at that. Just real quick, Speaker Steve, there is a question. How did you know what equipment you were flying on at only 3 years of age? Well, when I was 3, I didn't know it was a Boeing 707, but when I was 5, I saw the Thunderbirds, and I started building every model airplane ever built. And the Pan Am 707, even if I didn't know what it was, when you walk out, because they didn't have jetways then, when you walk out to a Pan Am 707, you know it. That Pan Am livery is fantastic. That spike on the tail of the 707s, nothing else, not another plane in the world has that. And it just chrome and it just looks so boss, that Pan Am 707. Sleek, because it was a narrow body airplane, and I just loved it. Just loved it. Melinda Bradley says, Bill, when we are seeing merchandise, when are we seeing merchandise? I would like a hoodie. I think we can start thinking about that when I get some of these shows up, which I've been talking about doing forever, but in any event, it's tough running a one-man show when you're one man. Premature Ejection says, first super chat here, been a fan since Afterburner and thought you were an amazing virtual president, but I think Trump has you beat. That makes 2 of us. Thanks, Bill. Thank you very much, Premature. That's very kind of you. Thank you for the super chat. Make sure I didn't miss anybody else, because I missed a couple last night that said, and it just bugs the daylights out of me. All right, so here we go. Whoa. Okay, so apparently they're putting the new ones up on the top here. Miss Super Chat, so we'll get to that. Oh, that's page 2. Never mind. All right, so let's see here. There's Bob Neve, college student. Yes. Tom Bizzle. Got that. Capital G. We got the 2 Bob Neves here. Okay, Ray Juarez. Hey, Bill, do you think Gen Z has become the written-off generation? To which Marusha Dark replies, if anything, I'd say millennials are probably the written-off generation. I think that's no grapes tonight, Sun Wukong. You can stay on the show without fear of squishy noises. Or at least from grapes, anyway. Yeah, that line about the millennials sounds like I remember the first time that baby boomers weren't in the spotlight anymore. So I'm just going to take the question. Yeah, Ray. I mean, I'm just going to come out and say it. For people who were raised by the greatest generation, who were tough hombres, millennials look weak, but Gen Z look broken. And it's not their fault. I was watching. Get your bingo cards out. As I was setting up, like I said, I was going to try and broadcast from the other side of the room and start on the story mechanics side, but I just didn't have it's getting too close, and I didn't want to be late on the special show. But I was watching a body cam video of this 19-year-old woman who was drunk and got pulled over, and she, in the course of the stop and the field sobriety test, she said, "I want my mommy." When is mommy coming? She said it 83 times. They had a little counter that went ding, 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 83 times. I want my mommy. Where's my is my mommy coming? Is my mommy close? Is my I want to talk to mommy. I'm gonna make a firewall about that. And call it Nation of Children, and the thing. I mean, the thing that's hard for Gen Z, and I do my very best to keep myself aware of this. The thing that's hard for Gen Z, listening to people talking about Gen Z, is Gen Zers don't appreciate just how viscerally annoying the way they were raised is. And then I remind myself that Gen Z didn't raise themselves; they didn't ask to be raised that way. But there's something viscerally annoying about a person who's 19 years old, has a driver's license, and as soon as any kind of stress appears, turns into a why I want my mommy. I want my mommy. That's not how 19-year-olds should behave. And the point of all this is the Gen Z is the result of the largest case of generational child abuse. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. Wake up. It's the most egregious case of generational child abuse, maybe in human history. This is the culmination of the self-esteem movement, where everybody gets a trophy, because we don't want to give a trophy to the winners, because if the winners get trophies, then the losers will feel bad, and we don't want them to feel bad. So we will make sure that everybody gets a trophy, which means that little kids never get to feel bad. Little kids never get to lose. Little kids never have to deal with defeat. Little kids never have to deal with frustration. Little kids never have to deal with being told no. And they grow up that way. And as Gen Z has aged, as that cohort has aged, everywhere Gen Z has gone, the adults have buckled to Gen Z. So when Gen Zers were 5 years old and they stamped their feet and rolled around on the floor because they didn't get a toy, their parents broke down and bought them the toy. And when they're running up and down the aisles of the airplane, screaming and yelling and grabbing people's hair, and the mom is just looking at her iPad, pretending like it's not happening, and everybody else on the airplane suddenly becomes boomers and just says, "I will smack some sense into that kid. If you're not going to discipline this child, I will do it. I volunteer." There's that. And then they got into elementary school and they started having tantrums, and the teachers backed down. High school, they started getting a little pushback. They threatened the teachers backed down. In college, they were given safe spaces and coloring books and puppies and all of this stuff. And no one has ever had the love or the kindness to Gen Z to smack them around and say, listen, you should have learned these lessons when you were 4. It's not your fault that you didn't, but it's either learn them now or not. And I don't know. The alphas seem to be a little tougher, although while they seem to be less emotional, they also seem to be a little bit more intellectually not deficient. Although the pandemic has cost them. They say, researchers have said that the pandemic may have cost those kids in the critical age group during the pandemic may have cost them. Are you ready for this? 15 IQ points on average. 15 IQ points. And so there's that. Now this is an interesting point, and it needs to be made. I recently, this is Colonel Angus saying, I recently spent some time with young Marines. They are the same as they were decades ago. Don't despair. Not despairing. I know that the cream of the crop is always the cream of the crop. But they were, Gen Z was raised without any idea, was raised with the idea that shame, like for example, fat shaming is something to be ashamed of. People will shame you for criticizing fat people. It's not. See, this is kind of one of the reasons why by the way that everybody hates wokeism. Wokeism says it's wrong to shame somebody. Well, I don't think you should be that fat. I think it's bad for your health. How dare you fat shame somebody? What's wrong with you? Are you some kind of Nazi or fascist? So they're shaming people for trying to help. You know, I mean, the the body positivity movement is is it's just murder. I don't know. I've seen compilation videos of a lot of these like super obese Gen Zers, and to some degree, I guess maybe millennials and alphas on either side, but probably not alphas yet. They're not quite old enough to die of obesity, but they will be in 5 years. And lots and lots and lots of these uh, Gen Z fat streamers. You know, they just all they do is stream eating. And there was an amalgamation of them, but you know, body positivity streamer, dead, 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 in their 20s and 30s, dead, dead, died, dead, dead, gone, dead. You know, um, a significant amount of this is the change in the food. I had thought that it was just, you know, the addition of high fructose corn syrup, but I saw something on Facebook that basically said, here's the food, look, same food back in the 70s versus today. And it was like, let's say, Hellman's mayonnaise, ingredients, eggs, you know, maybe a little sugar, whatever, 4 ingredients. Today, ingredients, hydrogenated soy meal, 15 ingredients, and again and again and again and again and again and again. And you looked at what they showed you the package, what the package looked like in the 70s, and they may have 4 ingredients, and they showed the exact same food with the new packaging, same name, and now there's 35 different ingredients. And you know, what do you do about this? You know, I mean, see, so being obese. Look, it's the older you get, the harder it is to lose weight. I have this fight ongoing, which is getting harder. For most of my life, virtually all of my life, I was real thin, and then as I got older, I started putting on a little weight. And when I started putting on some weight, if I got too heavy, I just cut back on what I was eating, and the weight would just fall off. You know. Now it's like no, but I have found something that does work. I was talking about I couldn't break this, you know, get below. And I'm coming back to Gen Z on this because it bears on it. I couldn't, you know, I got down like lost like 6-7 pounds, but I couldn't get any lower than that. Went to a doctor who said you should do this intermittent fasting. Just don't eat anything after 6 p.m. And I've tried that for 2 days and lost 3 pounds. So I've eaten for the day. I'm up late at night, so I used to eat late, and I'm sure that's a lot of it. So I have some confidence that this alone might do it, because I've already cut the sugars and the fats and the salt and all those other delicious things. But my point is that a lot of this obesity is because of the food, and a lot of it is because of the lack of discipline and the lack of shame. If you were when we were kids, and by the I was thinking about this just about an hour ago, because I was thinking a little bit about this question. About an hour before we started the show, I was just working in here, and I thought, you know, I suddenly now realize why my dad would say to me, whenever I would complain about something, I used to have to walk 17 miles through the snow to go to school every day, uphill both ways, and I didn't have shoes, and I worked 6 jobs, and I plus I was taking all these courses. I graduated in 3 years. You know, it was just that speech that we used to get from our parents, the boomers used to get, and we used to make fun of it and think, you know, why is he doing this? Is he showing off? And I realized, no, he's not showing off. It's actually out of love. It's like he's trying to convince me that things could be much, much worse than what I'm complaining about. So when I find myself doing the same thing that my dad did to me with younger people, I kind of get it now. There's a lack of discipline. So when I was a boy, when we didn't. We didn't have our jetpacks to fly to school, and we had to drive Camaros, and we were damn glad to have them too. But when I was, a kid in elementary school and high school, we didn't have any fat kids. If we had a kid who was somewhat bigger than others, and they were exclusively boys, by the way, exclusively, we would say they were husky. Remember that word? Oh, he's a little husky. But that meant like overweight, but certainly not by today's standards. Now, when I see fat children, I kind of lose my marbles, man, because the parents' lack of spine has condemned these children to a short life of ridicule and loneliness. These kids can't go buy their own food. So when I see when I see fat children, I just want to grab the parents and smack them around a little bit and say, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, Joseph Talbot said it's child abuse. It is child abuse. They don't have they don't have, and it's all part. See, all of this is due to individual responsibility on the part of the parents, and I was on the ladder standing there when I was thinking about this an hour ago. And it's also a result of liberal progressive politics. It is the idea that children are perfect in their natural form, and that all that society does is corrupt them, and this is what leads to the so-called gentle parenting thing. Your children are these precious, perfect little creatures, and you can't possibly strike them, hit them, or discipline them because they're Rousseauian. They're pure in their natural state. They're noble savages. The traditional view of children, which I subscribe to, is that they're extremely prolific and capable liars, and are wont to tear down anything that's not stopping them. They also do stupid things like dash into traffic after somebody knocks a football or a baseball into the street. So I grew up in a world where spanking was the norm, and I have found that the people I know who had strict parents are much, 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 much happier people than the people I know who have very permissive parents. And that anger that is underneath so much of this emotional weakness on part of Gen Z, that rage, is rage of children who are looking for boundaries and whose parents don't have the guts to give it to them. So it's not just the weight. The weight is a particular symptom of the permissiveness on the part of the parents. You see fat children. They don't buy groceries. They can't spend the money. They can pester their parents and wear their parents down, and that's what they do. I want the cereal, but I want the cereal. I want the cereal. And then finally, the parents just giving them buy the cereal to get them to shut up. And what they should do is put everything. Just leave the cart in the aisle, grab the child by the hand, say, "Come with me," walk them to and do it. Now, Marisha Dark, of course, says, anti-spanking is a hill I will die on. I've known too many parents who never had to do it, whose kids turned out well-behaved. Well, I've known lots and lots of kids who never were spanked, who turned out to be absolutely rotten and miserable, but I've never run into a kid who was spanked who was. And I also have never run into a kid who was spanked who's lost their minds. They'll say, oh, my father used to knock me unconscious. Never these horror stories you hear about parents who spank parents. Like, never, ever, ever have I seen that, ever. My dad used to knock me unconscious. Please. Please. That's what butts are designed for. You can administer a sharp little burst of pain and to reason with a 2-year-old, to try and reason with them, to sit down and talk about why you shouldn't take the cookies or the dangers of stepping off into traffic. It's just nuts. It's just nuts. You cannot reason with children because they don't have the neural equipment to understand reason. It's a form of vanity and cowardice and virtue signaling to sit down and sit with Erasmus, their little Erasmus, and say, now Erasmus, I told you, didn't I tell you not to take any cookies? Yes. Why did you take them? I don't know. Well, why did you disobey mommy? Why didn't you listen to what I said? Because I didn't feel like, shut up, you know. And then the next thing you know, they start smacking mom because they get away with it, and then they're on Dr. Phil. Eric Blake says, every workday at Walmart, there's so many screaming brats who just won't stop. Any kid who was disciplined well by their parents, who's grown up like I have been, and I was particularly well disciplined, I might point out, because I was the son of a hotel manager, and the idea that I would be acting out at the hotel and demoralizing the entire staff was anathema to my dad. So we were on a tight leash. But when I see these kids behaving like this in public, kids like us who were disciplined by our parents will just say, I can discipline this child. I can stop the screaming right now. I can stop the screaming right now and make that child much, much, much happier. Marusha says, my sister reasons with her 2-year-old daughter, and she absolutely has the mind to understand it. Well, Marusha, you're just plain wrong, okay? We've disagreed about a lot of things, and last night you changed my mind, but you're wrong. There is absolutely no way physically possible, it is biologically impossible for a 2-year-old to understand reason. She may comply, but that doesn't mean the same thing as understand, and it doesn't mean they got the message that you can reason with a 2-year-old. That's absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. There are many, many adults who don't ever develop the mental ability to reason, and to suggest that a 2-year-old has the ability to reason and overcome their emotional state through reason is just plain insane. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. In fact, I know that's not true. John Eden's got it right. I'll give you something to cry about. That's what I remember. I remember it really, very clearly. It's like you can't. Stefan Molyneux has the data to back it up. I don't buy the data to back it up argument either. I don't buy the data to back it up. The data to back it up is done by. You were the one who sent me the link that said that 80 or 90% of all scientific studies are false. Wasn't it you who said that 80 or 90% of everything that's published is false because publications will not publish refutation papers? So who does standards? Who does sociological studies on spanking? Do you think parents that spank do sociological studies on whether spanking works? No. Sociological studies on whether spanking is effective are done by left-wing behavioral scientists, left-wing sociologists who go looking for the answer and the data that they want, and then they select it. They may do it intentionally, they may do it unintentionally, but they are clearly hacking the data and p-hacking the data, and they are also looking for confirmation bias. So I don't give a damn about whether Stefan Molyneux has data saying that spanking actually is not effective or doesn't work. I am able to observe the real world with my eyes, and I can tell you, one of the things you see when you see people, like you see like a Gen Zer misbehaving, having a tantrum, like an adult on one of these body cam videos, for example, and all the people in the comment section will say, this person is a 19-year-old child. We never would have behaved this way. Our parents would have killed us. And then in jumps some Gen Zer into the comment section and says, of course people behaved that way when you were children. Don't lie to us. You know, you weren't any different. You weren't special. Like, no, you weren't there, Jack. Nobody behaved that way in public. Nobody behaved that way on airplanes. Nobody. It just wasn't done. The parent would die of embarrassment because the society was considerably more, way more disciplined. Now I've got a firewall. I told you I was going to bring those back, and I'm doing one called a Golden Age. And let me just give you the premise of the Golden Age, just how this works. I'm going to use the Miami Planetarium. Hang on a second. Jan Blackman, I'm 75 and I raised 5 kids. I wasn't much of a spanker, but they all knew they had to mind or else they would get their butts spanked. Jan, that's entirely the point. See, this is the point that the anti-spanking people, they're very much like the anti-gun people. I mean, usually they're the same people. The anti-spanking people say, well, you're just hitting your kid all the time. But Jan points out the entire point. If they know that you're serious about it, then they will behave themselves and you don't have to do it. This is why the neighborhoods that have the most legally owned guns have the lowest crime rates. It's not because we have shootouts every night and kill all the burglars. It's because the burglars know if they go into this neighborhood, like someplace in Plano, Texas, they go in through a window, they're going to get shot. So they don't have to shoot because the deterrent effect is already in place. And this is the thing that children are wired, all children are wired to push the boundaries. That's what growing up is about. That's how you launch a child as becomes an adult. You have to push the boundaries, and the idea of parenting is to expand those boundaries predicated on how they behave on the previous boundary and get them to the point that by the time they're 18 years old, they can go out into the world and handle things by themselves. And so if you never ever get them through that first phase of listening and doing it because he said so, then there you go. Bill Stefan applies this practice with his own daughter. I've met her. She's highly well educated and intelligent. It's not just the data, it's also real life experience for him and for me. Good for you. You found a well educated, well behaved person who was reasoned with. But I absolutely, to say that this is a societal, that this is a better way to run a society is nuts. And I don't have to argue with you about this. Yeah, that's right, Andrew. That's a data point of 1. I know that children didn't behave the way they behave now when I was a child. I know that for a certain fact. And I know that I didn't behave as well as my parents did. But we were well behaved. So I don't care if you can find one person arguing. The exception is actually the quickest way to lose the argument. If you're going to tell me that children are better behaved today, because there's no question that spanking has gone down, no question about that. So if you're going to tell me that children are better behaved today than they were in the 1960s, then you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. I don't care what data you have. It's just plain absolutely insane. It's nuts. It's nuts. So I think I probably got spanked twice. Once certainly, probably twice. And when I got spanked, my dad said, I'm going to count to 3. And he used the dad voice. And that works right up until the time you're about, I don't know, right around 14, 15, I guess, when you, 12, 13, something like that. Bill Waco says the problem with guns is that those left unattended are at risk. The safest place for a gun is over your appendix. Yeah, okay, there you go. The children today are bad because neither spanking nor reason nor discipline is being applied. That's the predictive hypothesis. Wrong. I see all of these people sitting there with their children, explaining it to them, and the children start punching them in the face. I've seen it. How many times have I seen on Dr. Phil where parents are, I don't know how to control them. I don't know what to do. I try to talk to them. No. It's a question of who's in charge. It's who's in charge. And the kids are in charge. Saw one I wanted to see. Oh, Melina Bradley says, Bill, you should hear how the students talk back to us. Melina, are you active teacher now? Sounds like an active teacher. Because I know everybody's getting out of teaching. There's nobody wants to teach anymore because the children are monsters and their schools back them. Firewaker says, I left half your comment out. Boo. Okay, which comment? Mr. Super Chat, let me see if... Are you a different name over here? Am I missing something? Ben Adams with a $10 Super Chat. Thanks for the Saturday show. Wesley Bruce with a Super Chat saying, obesity is a contagious disease with a known cause, not food, a virus, adenovirus 36 and a known cure, but doctors are not reading the paper. The diet and exercise industry is bigger than Big Pharma. Something is happening. Sun Wukong has a Super Chat, says, a world difference between physical discipline and beating the humanity out of kids. I've not seen using physical discipline. It's a rare parent. I've seen not using physical discipline. It's a rare parent. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just have seen too many personally and societally cases where these children are absolutely miserable and out of control, and they are the unhappiest children in the world. I'll tell you something. I had a conversation about this. I might have been with Steve and Scott, but on a backstage show, I said, I have never, ever have I met a person who referred to their father as sir who was unhappy. Ever. And so, why is that? Why is that? Oh, Waco says the safest place for your gun is over an appendix unless you're a cop or an FBI agent. I left the best part out. Sorry about that. So, Got it. Okay. Anyway, the written off generation, it's hard, Ray. I'm assuming you're coming from a Gen Z perspective, if I remember correctly. It's hard for you to realize how reflexive this reaction is to this lack of discipline. It's a visceral. When I saw this 19-year-old whining, "When my mommy, I want my mommy to," it filled me with rage. It just filled me with rage. It just made me want to slap her. Just like, snap out of it. What's the matter with you? Fiery Waco says we need to get a couple shots in the bill to loosen them up. I should drunk blog an episode one night. That would be fun. If Steve Green is man enough to do it, I'm man enough to copy it. Yeah, that'd be fun. I'm a fun drunk, actually. I'm a very fun drunk. I'm one of those. This is the greatest guy in the world kind of drunks. Arm around this. I went to a cruise in Cabo with the person I was seeing before I met Natasha. Went to a cruise in Cabo and got plastered. I mean, just absolutely smashed. And I had enough Spanish, and at the end of this cruise, I'm like fishing out these $20 bills and going up to the captain, "Estimado Capitan," and I'm giving him the whole story about it was the greatest cruise of my life, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah, I don't recommend getting intoxicated either. Maybe what I'll do is I'll record that one, but not stream it, or keep it on Twitch and not do it on YouTube or something. That way I can squash it and erase it from the internet. Wipe it. You mean like with a cloth? Yes, exactly. Bill Whittle's Scotch pundit. Yeah, I wish. Bill Whittle's not manly enough to be the Scotch pundit. Bill's the frickin' lemon drop martini pundit. So, Bone Canoe says Bill's dressing is going to give me a 10-yard penalty, an automatic first down. It really does look too much like this. So, anyway, yeah, obviously I have pretty strong feelings about this, and I see people doing this gentle parenting thing, and it makes me want the parents sent to camp to learn some fundamentals, because their children are going to be miserable kids. They're going to spend the rest of their lives looking for that boundary that their parents were too weak to give them. So, anyway. All right, up next, Marisha Dark, third time axing. Well, first I said the C word, and then I just said first time axing. Why do some people have a problem with that word? I don't know why people have had said, just a lot of the black communities is why are you axing me? I didn't think I was axing you. Yes, the C word. It's another word for movie. Sun Wukong, another super chat. 19-year-old you speak of doesn't have a lack of tough love problem. Their parents don't love them at all. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think the parents... I don't think the parents are lacking love. I think they're lacking courage. Melina Bradley, I've never cussed at my son Clay. You can ask him even when he threw a fake snake at me. Hello, Melina. I didn't make the connection. I hope Clay is doing well. He's one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. And it's very, very good to see you. He Subs for Cheap says, Bill, those children will be miserable to us. Yes, it's going to be tough. So anyway, I was talking about, before I go on, I was talking about this firewall called the Golden Age. I'm going to talk about the planetarium and Jack Horkheimer and his prediction that the Apollo era was the Golden Age. I'm going to do the whole thing. And then I'm using the actual planetarium building as a metaphor, because when I got there in 1973, it was gleaming white in the Florida sunshine. and we had these black light posters. And for 5-6 years, right up until about end of the 70s, early 80s, these were hand-painted vertical format panels that were painted in fluorescent colors, in black light colors, of various stages of astronomy. So here's Galileo with the first telescope, and here's the Jodrell Bank radio telescope, and all these Apollo capsule over the moon and that stuff. And they were magical. Sun Wukong says it takes love to give boundaries. Well, I agree. Also takes courage. Anyway, we had those out there forever. And then I went to college and I came back. And when I came back in 82, 83 to the planetarium, I started to notice that people had made little marks with pens, and some people had written their names on it and mustaches and things. So they put plexiglass over these things, which kills the effect completely because you just get the shine. Thank you, Arteki. You don't get the glow. It just kills it. And then people started scratching the plexiglass and scratching their name onto the plexiglass. Have you ever noticed, by the way, if you go to a gas station, the LCD display, have you noticed how many times people have carved their initials into that? You can't find one that hasn't been defaced that way. So after a while, they took down, they put particle board up in front of those things, and they put up these cheesy NASA posters. Here's a picture of Saturn taken by Voyager 1 NASA. It's garbage, and it's like so depressing because that ambulatory used to be so magical. And then I came and went back many years later and found those paintings stacked out in back of the museum in the rain, covered in mold, warped, just destroyed. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka says, and that's why the observatory can't have nice things. That's why the planetarium can't have nice things. So reason I'm going to attach this to the golden age is I'm going to say, listen, we're seeing changes in our government that I never thought I'd live to see. And I genuinely think we are heading into a new golden age. But this will not be a golden age as long as people keep writing on the paintings. Without that fundamental sense of respect, it's just you can't have it. When I ask myself why is it that those paintings went unmolested for 10 years, it was because society understood that drawing on a work of art like that wasn't done. It wasn't done. And if anybody had reached out to put draw their name or put a mustache or any kind of mark on that, if somebody had reached out to do that, they would have been physically restrained by the other people in the crowd, physically restrained, and probably called the cops and just held on and said, what the hell, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And then something happened in society somewhere in the 70s and 80s where it's like citizens were told, don't interfere, just don't interfere. Call the cops, wait for the cops, don't interfere. Exactly. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka said, found pushed aside and rotting like the original Galileo shuttlecraft. Exactly. And so then it's like this. So now you go to a store and you see people just stuffing clothes in a bag and walking right out the front door. And when I see people stuffing bags and walking right out the front, they're not even hiding it, not trying to conceal it. It's not even shoplifting anymore. Just plain looting, right? They'll go into a Target or something. They'll just load up a shopping cart and just push it out the door. And I see this happening on videos, and I say to myself, I will be damned if I'm going to stand there, me personally, stand there and watch that happen in my society. That person is going to have to deal with me. If everybody else, including the store people, are just saying, don't get involved, don't, they might have a gun or a knife, or they'll sue you or so on. It's like, I don't care. I will not bear it. I won't stand for it. I won't. And until that comes back, then this idea of a golden age is just not going to happen. Airteki says our popular culture has normalized criminal behavior and glamorized it. Yes. And it's going to take 30 years to set this right. However, with all of that said, lawlessness does come from the top down. And and we have seen the left take over. I mean, Obama really accelerated it, but the left's intrusion into our culture really started in the 60s, and all of this permissiveness and all of this libertinism and all of this hedonism, and I'll do what I want to, and to hell with anybody else, and I'll take this, and if it turns out that I took everyone's other stuff, too bad for them. It's got nothing to do. That whole selfish entitledness that is just a cancer on this society. Is a result of a society that doesn't put Hillary Clinton in jail. Right? If she can get away with it, why should we have to? Right? If they don't have to obey the laws, why do we have to? So this is why I'm encouraged about this, because it looks like we're going to start seeing some consequences. Barry Schiff, for example, I have heard, has a $500,000 house. It can't be in California. It's got to be more than that. 17, luxury watches, a number of cars, all of this stuff, and he is screaming real loud about you can't possibly look into what the government's doing. It's none of your business. Melina Bradley says, when I worked at Sears, God bless Sears, I used to love going to Sears. We could detain them as soon as they stepped out of the store. Well, if you do that, it's not even the physical threat. We are coming out of 3 or 4 decades where if somebody steals something, Melina, and walks out of the store with it, and you detain them, they will sue you and they will win. That's where the wheels come off. When the color of law is on the side of the criminal, when society is on the side of the criminal, where a citizen trying to stop a crime is the one who goes to jail, right? So in California, I've had policemen say, "Hey, Bill, if somebody breaks into your house in the middle of the night," yeah, they've just openly told me this. Yeah, and you feel like you have to defend yourself? I said, yes. Back when I had weapons, you mean? Before the terrible boating accident? Yeah, before that. He said, if you have to use your firearm to defend yourself in your house, you need to do a mag dump on them. I said, what? This is absolutely true. This is coming from a police officer, experienced police officer. He says you need to do a mag dump on them. You need to fire every round that you can at them, and if you have a chance, put a few into the wall. I don't understand. Shouldn't I just shoot them once, and if they go down, great, and if not, shoot them again? He says, nope, because if you do that, they are going to say that you were under control. Well, I am under control. Yeah, but if you're under control, then they will say, why didn't you shoot the knife out of his hand? Or why didn't you wound him in the ankle? You need to fire every round in the magazine, put a few into the roof and a couple in the walls, and your defense will be that somebody came into your house, you were terrified and confused for your life, you saw a gun, you have just started shooting, you just did everything you could, boom, 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 and a couple of rounds happened to hit the guy, and gee, what a shame, because you were just in a state of panic. I said, this is insane. He said, yes, it's insane. You live in an insane state. Insane state. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka says, because if you were really afraid for your life, you would mag dump. That is the assumption that people are children, right? The idea that you could use lethal force because you had a perfectly good reason to be fearful of your life, and you were under control, and you weren't in a panic, not in this state anyway. Texas, on the other hand, has a very, very profoundly useful and common sense philosophy, legal defense, and that legal defense is that person needed killing. And frankly, I really would love to live in a place where, why did you shoot him? Well, because that person needed killing. Castleton says, down here in Texas, my brother was told by the police, if you shoot somebody in your yard, drag their body into your house. Yeah. Rouge says these laws are made by people who've never even held a gun before, who are terrified to even look at one. Yes, all of this is true. But the bottom line is, to people who say such a thing as racist or or just plain lunatic violent, it's like, let me just reverse this, right? If I go into somebody else's house at 2 o'clock in the morning, I expect to get shot, which is why I don't do it, number one, and number two, because I find burglary and stealing and crime to be morally reprehensible. But I would never have the expectation that I could go into somebody's house and come out of there alive. It's just stupid. So anyway, back we go. Taxes and spending, third time asking. Bill, you once noted that the most pernicious thing about the income tax is the fact that it's drip-fed throughout the year. Yes, exactly. Make it a little bigger. And at the end, people get a big refund check, whereas if the government instead issued a single invoice every year, the people would revolt. Yes. They take 30 or 40% of your income. I'm in SoCal as well, Jump. I'm in Los Angeles. So they'll take 30 or 40% of your income, and then at the end of the year they might give you back $800, and you're grateful to them. Oh my God, I'm getting a huge tax refund. Well, I can't believe what I'm going to do with all this money. Recently saw a post that suggested we do something similar for spending. Instead of reporting raw dollar amounts, we would describe all expenditures in terms of the number of taxpayers needed to support it. What do you think of this reframe? I did see this question before. Here's the math. For context, the average yearly salary in the U.S. is just under $65,500. So where $20 million feels like chump change compared to $20 billion or $36 trillion, saying that such and such program costs the entire yearly salary of 305 Americans hits a lot harder. Since that's effectively 305 Americans who made nothing all year and whom we would now have to financially support, all we could do is whatever this program. Also, we could do whatever this program is, and then let people sit with that. I also ran the numbers. 36 trillion would require just under 550 million people, or roughly 1.5 times our current population, just to break even. So you could also say that our population would have to, our entire population would have to work for 1.5 years. And take all of the money that everybody makes, every single penny, and give it to the government in order to break even. I'll tell you what I think is a better metric than this, because no one can really connect with spending their entire yearly income. I have always been a believer in saying how many people's total tax payments. So let's say, for the sake of the argument, you paid $20,000 in taxes for this year. Then this government program costs all the taxes that have been paid by 9,480 people. 9,480 people, all the taxes that they paid went for this. All of your money went for this. I know that's not exactly how it works, but I agree. Something to make the numbers more excuse me, tangible, a little more accessible. Because once you and by the way, this is how they're able to steal trillions of dollars, because once you get above $1 million, you can't comprehend the number. It's like astronomical distances. I know that Alpha Centauri is 4.6 light years away. Alpha Centauri AB, for you pedants out there, 4.6 light years away. And I know how big that is relative to an astronomical unit. And I know if I had a golf ball here and another golf ball there and all the rest of this stuff, but no one can process that information. No one can process the size of Texas. No one can process any of these things. We use reductionism. So if I said, tell me about Texas, you'd show me a map of Texas and list the roadways and so on, but it wouldn't be Texas. It wouldn't be all of the little pebbles and all the scorpions and all the skyscrapers and all of the, pieces of gum on the road and all the rest of it. It's just a orders and orders and orders and orders of magnitude reduction. As a very, very, very quick aside, Natasha was working with ChatGPT, and I have generally stayed away from it. But she was working on it for an art project she's working on, and she had it open in voice mode. And I basically said, hey, ChatGPT, can you do a physics question for me? And ChatGPT said, I'd be happy to do a physics question for you. And I said, how long would it take for a spaceship to reach 90% of the speed of light at 1g acceleration? And I was expecting a Siri answer, which would be the total number of days. But what ChatGPT gave me was, assuming an asymptotic start at the beginning under an immediate 1g acceleration, and dealing with relativistic effects, the formula becomes, and he listed the formula where a is the acceleration is this, and over t, and so distance is so on and so forth, blah 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 blah. The end result is it would be 56,942 seconds, or in other words, 354 days. And that was exactly I thought it was. I remember hearing somebody say that if you could accelerate at 1g constantly, you'd get to the speed of light in about a year. Now, you'll never get to the speed of light, of course, that's why I said 90%. But ChatGPT gave me every single step of it and didn't require any clarification. It knew exactly what I was talking about. And see, this is where I think this is where AI can be wonderful. I do not understand this. Well, I do. It's a Frankensteinian sense of creating our own life and our own masters, because this level of AI is nothing. That's exactly right. Kirk's Bamboo Bazooka says that's ChatGPT showing its work. Exactly. So why do we have to go further than this? Why do we have to work for self-awareness? This is perfect. I asked ChatGPT, I said, how are you feeling today? And ChatGPT said, I don't have feelings. I'm an assistant, and I'm happy to assist you in any way I can, but I can't answer that question because I don't have feelings. I thought, good. And then I asked ChatGPT, I said, you're processing information at a rate thousands, if not millions of times faster than humans do. Do you feel that you have to wait for the end of the human to speak, even though you know what the end of the question is going to be? And if so, what do you think about during that time? I thought that was kind of a cool question. ChatGPT said, I don't think about things other than the question, and I don't anticipate the question. I don't begin my process until the question is over. And again, I don't have feelings or thoughts exactly. And I thought, man, what a fantastic servant. But we're not content to have fantastic servants. We've got to have it turn into a master. So, you know. And by the way, I've been working with I've been doing AI thumbnails for Right Angles and Hot Mics for a while now. And I had a devil of a time getting the Shutterstock AI to do Donald Trump. I would say Donald Trump doing this, and it just wouldn't do it. It would just show different guys, and then it would suddenly do it. And Steve Green's way on the head of the curve on this as usual. So he turned me on to Grok. And now Grok, I tell Grok, boom. I'll give you an example of a Grok image here. A second. This is for my right angle that'll show up tomorrow. My show is called No More Headwinds, and my premise is we found out that that with all of this fraud, Doge has found innumerable cases where taxpayer money has gone to liberal and progressive causes. In other words, we taxpayers are paying the opposition to oppose us. And if we cut off the funding to them, well, when we cut off the funding to Politico, they couldn't make their payroll. So what I basically said was, my thesis was, if we have been fighting a 20 or 30 point headwind at the polls, right, and that headwind is sustained and generated by money that is stolen from us through fraud in the government, once we turn off the spigots to the fraud, we may be looking at no longer facing a 20 point cultural headwind. We may be facing a world where the conservative message gets out as much as the liberal message, and that means it's the end. It's over for them. So that was the premise. So what I wanted was I was real clear on this. The title of the episode was No More Headwind. And what I wanted was a picture of Uncle Sam leaning into a really strong gale force wind. I wanted a picture of America going into a headwind. Now, it probably took me 25 or 30 individual images. They were all coming back more or less. I wanted to tweak them, but this is the one that this was the one that I wanted. This is pretty much exactly what I had in mind when I went looking for this right angle. There's no way I could have found that in a image library. But this is the Grok thumbnail for No More Headwind. Hang on. Let me get it over. Hang on there, YouTube. That's exactly, precisely what I had in mind. I think it's awesome. And so what's paradoxically what's happening is we're finding out that the people who are becoming kind of the best visual artists are the guys who have the most verbal skills, because it comes down to the prompt. I forget exactly what the prompt was, but it was Uncle Sam leaning heavily into a very severe gale force wind. Debris and spray are flying past his face. His look is grim and determined, and I just put that in, and it started cranking out Uncle Sam's, and then I just kept doing it, and a couple of them were pretty close, but I didn't like the costume, but this costume was fantastic. So yeah, there you go. All right, let me get back to the questions because we need to move the mail here. So yes, I agree, Marusha. We definitely need to use something that is not GK Masterson, hurrah! Something that is a little more accessible. Janie Waterman, howdy. What do you think it means to be a victim of feminism? Intentionally providing no context. Thank you. I can probably make relatively short work of this based on a lot of things we talked about either recently or tonight. The first wave feminism obviously is the idea that women should have the right to vote and the right to any job that they want, that they qualify for, and to be paid the same for that work. And I don't see how you can really argue with that. Although, when you look at how progressive women vote and how emotional they are about these things, you can start to ask some questions. But in any event, the goals of first wave feminism are just fundamental people's rights. You know, that's just rights. And prior to women getting the vote, they were in fact essentially stay at home and had no control over finances and so on. And now they obviously run businesses. Self-explanatory. So when it was about societal and economic equality and political equality, great. But what modern feminism has become is it's become an anti-male grievance society that wants all of the benefits that males have, none of the responsibilities, none of the duties, and none of the downside. Bill Burr's gotten really, really weak lately. I was really disappointed, but when he was really on his game, he was talking about it like it was like a buffet. I'll have one of those. I'll have one of those equal pay, but no, pay for the date. No, I don't want one of those. Being on the lifeboat on the Titanic, yes, that'd be great. And so what it has done is is that a group of very I think this is clear. It has become a small group of very abnormal women, very abnormal, angry, abnormal women, and a significant number of them lesbians as well, because that's in the mix, who have determined that women are equal to men in every way, not equal on balance, but equal in every possible way. These women believe that women. There's a lot of women out there that believe that Serena Williams could play against a male tennis player and kick his ass. And Serena Williams, to her enormous credit, said it'd be 5-0, 5-0. It'd be over. Just be done. I'd be lucky if I scored a point. It's an entirely different game. It's not even the same game. She deserves a lot of credit for that. She took a lot of heat for that. But this idea that women, did I say Serena, my bad. this idea that, and when you ask these women about these things, they say, yeah, we're boss babes and 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 all of this. But when you ask them if you should split the bill on a first date, they say no, that's the job of the men to do that. And these very untraditional women who have extremely masculine energy characteristics. I don't want to get into using terms like energy as a general rule. Extremely masculine characteristics expect to be treated like princesses selectively. They want the romance, they want the provider, they want the strong man, but at the same time they want to tell the strong man what to do. And it, you either get a wolf or you get a poodle, but you don't get wolves that behave like poodles. Because even if you made a wolf behave like a poodle, people that wanted the wolf wouldn't respect the wolf anymore. So what modern feminism has done is it has inverted. Modern feminism is an inversion of femininity. That's actually rather pithy. That's actually almost good enough to be on a t-shirt. Modern feminism is an inversion of femininity. It's about dominance. It's about aggression. It's about things like you got to go out there. You got to be strong. Got to be tough. Okay, so Richard Dark says always felt feminism should be about raising women up, not tearing men down. Modern feminism is trying to turn women into men because modern feminism envies and hates men. They know on some level that we're stronger than they are, and so they put their fingers in their ears and convince themselves otherwise. They know that we're stronger, faster, and smarter, also stupider. But they can't get around that, and so they come up with things like the pay gap. This is a terrible, terrible, terrible injustice when they know full well that no one is keeping women out of being oil rig workers out on marine oil platforms, except for women. Number one, they don't have the physical strength to do it, and secondly, they don't have the desire. This is why the whole DEI hiring in the airline thing is so wretched. Look, this is the best way I can put it. If you go to a flight school, any airport in the country, go to a flight school, and you are going to find of 100 people that show up for flying lessons, you're going to find 95% of them are white males. Now, I can't explain why that is. It just is true. It's just a fundamental truth. But my point is there's nobody at the door saying no women allowed, no blacks allowed, no Hispanics allowed. They just don't show up because it's a free country. They can go wherever they want to. The inverse is true for equestrian events. If you go to an equestrian event, you will find 9 out of 10 or 95 out of 100 of the people doing the riding of horses are women. And no one's saying no men allowed, and no one is forcing the women into that. It's just what the women prefer to do. And so when you determine to equalize things that people voluntarily make unevil, this is the thing, right? You are trying. What feminism is trying to do is trying to take away choice, because women choose not to be oil rig workers, and they choose not to be pilots. Not to say that there aren't women pilots and some excellent women pilots, but they choose as a general rule, not to go into those professions. And so when feminists say, well, there should be more women in aviation or engineering or so on, and we need to make it happen, they're denying the choice of the real women who simply didn't do it. And and you end up with DEI. It's true for women, it's true for blacks, it's true for Hispanics, it's true for everybody. You can apply the DEI argument to the NBA, for example, and say that there's not enough Asians in basketball, and not enough Jews either. And you could say what they say, which I could say what they say, which is I think that America should have an NBA that looks like America, and that means that more than 50% of the basketball players in the NBA have to be white. It has to look like America. Black males consist of about 6% of the population. So for every 100 players, you can have 6 black players. The rest have to be 40 some 40, 50 some white, 30 Hispanics, 10 Asians, and so on. And that's the way it's got to be. And when you ask them that, if you say, if I had the legal power to enforce that, what would it do to basketball? Would it make basketball better, or would it make basketball worse? And the answer is it would make basketball worse, because the best people in basketball are currently in basketball. Best basketball players in the world right now are playing basketball in the NBA. So, there you go. Yeah, I'm looking at the comment section here, and it's feminism is unnatural, and so is wokeism, and that's why woke is dying, because it is unnatural, it is unrealistic, it goes against the natural order of things. And because it is unnatural, it has to be artificially maintained by injections of money, and artificially maintained by injections of coercive force. So, everybody knows that men and women are not equal physically, but woke requires that they are, and so Leah Thomas has to be forcefully given the NCAA prior to Donald Trump had to have the authority to award him the medals. So Leah Thompson had a couple years where Leah Thompson was the best woman swimmer in the world, and everybody knew that this was insane, but insanity was the rule of the land back then. One of the first things Donald Trump did is to say, no, we're not playing this game anymore. We're not playing this game anymore. By the way, if trans ideology was exactly correct, that there was essentially no difference between men and women, and that by becoming trans you essentially became the gender or the sex that you were transitioning to, if that were true, then we would see as many female to male trans athletes as we would see male to female trans athletes. Right? I mean, if it turned out that all you had to do was simply identify as the other sex in order to compete, and if men and women are just as fast and just as strong as each other, then we should be seeing females competing in males, biological females competing as trans athletes in male sports and kicking ass. But we don't see any at all, which reminds me of the flow of refugees from Cuba to America. There's nobody leaving Fort Lauderdale in a raft to swim through 90 miles of shark-infested waters to get to the free healthcare down in Cuba. Eric Blake says, are there any? It's possible that there are some people who are biological females who consider themselves males and are competing in male sports, but certainly they're not showing up on the podium. If you have a biological woman who is a take Riley Gaines. Take Riley Gaines. This is the exact opposite of Leah Thomas. Take Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines, under the Biden insanity, Riley Gaines wakes up one day and decides that Riley Gaines is a man. And so now Randy Gaines decides to compete in the men's swimming competition. Riley Gaines goes from being the number 1 woman swimmer in the world to being number 858 in the men's category. If the trans theory were true, Riley Gaines would be the best woman swimmer. If their theory was true, the best woman swimmer would be just as fast as the best men's swimmer. And she would be out there in the Olympics and competing against men and beating them and so on. It's just plain obviously wrong. And I've said this before, the thing about the trans movement is if they can make you take a knee on the most obvious, visually obvious distinction about humans, if they can make you believe that the most obvious thing about people is a lie, then everything else after that is easy. Easy. So, there you go. JDoc40 with a super chat says, watch the Trump and Maine government spat. I saw that. He was great. Um, so, Trump is saying we're going to get compliance, and the governor of Maine. He said, "Is the governor, except for Maine, is the Maine governor in the House anywhere?" Oh, there she is. Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you complying with these federal orders. And mumbling over there, and he says, "Oh, really? You're not going to comply with them?" Mumbling. And then she says, "I'll see you in court." He says, "We will see you in court. It's going to be fun to watch you lose." Something along those lines. Yeah, he just gave it to her. Boom. There you go. So anyway, hopefully that helped. Steve Young. Evening, Bill. The Commander-in-Chief just fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Thoughts? Yes. Good. He may have been the best man for the job, and not just the best black man for the job, but he may have been the best man for the job. But even if he was the best man for the job, he was the best man for the job according to a very progressive, I almost said president, but regime. So he was Barack's answer. Sad Wings Raging says, "I guess Bill's not reading mine." Did I miss one in the comments section here? I take these things seriously. So the former chief supported all of the George Floyd rioting. Okay, so let's say that he was the most qualified man for the job, but he was the most qualified man for the job to advance progressive politics and not war-fighting lethality and efficiency, so he's gone. I think of all of the nominees that Trump got through, I was happiest about Pete Hegseth and then Pam Bondi, and then RFK. I'm happy about all of them, don't get me wrong. Super chat. Okay, let me see what I missed. Sorry, GK Masterson is currently working on a third book in my series. If I get it published, will you give it a read? I'm reluctant to say yes because I just don't have the time. And you know what? I'm going to say no, because I realize it's ruder to say yes and not do it than it is to say there's just no way that I've got the time to do it. I'm sorry about that. I'm sure it's excellent. I'll tell you what. I'll read an excerpt that I will definitely do. If you want to give me 3 or 4 pages of what you think the best section is, I would love to take a look at that, because it's not that I don't want to see the reading or the writing, but I find that when I make commitments that I know I can't keep in order to be kind, it's actually crueler, and I just don't want to do that, to be honest with you. It's especially not somebody I respect and care about. So that's the honest answer there. Here it is. I'm sure I didn't miss one. I missed one from JDoc too, so I was on a roll there. So I got that one. All right, so JDoc had a super chat that says, Democrats are terrified about the $5,000 checks, especially with conservatives saying, we owe this to you for wasting your money. These plans have been brilliantly put into place. They'll never win again. I could not agree more. It's a brilliant strategy. And once again, somebody, I think it might have been Mark Dice or somebody, caught, was it Crockett? Caught one of these Democrats saying, and by the way, who needs a measly $5,000 check anyway? Something to that effect, right? Who needs a measly $5,000 check? Yeah. Okay, keep talking, Democrats. It's like it's the fall of Barad-dûr, man. It's like watching the Dark Tower come down. It's just wonderful. Wonderful. Here's Sad Wings Raging. How can they claim an NGO is non-government when it gets paid by the government with our taxes? And Taffy 3, thank you. So an NGO is this kind of Borg creation that we find out now, gets money from the government. NGOs, I assumed were like, I had a 501c3, and I went out and tried to raise money for that from the private sector. It never occurred to me to apply for a grant, because it had nothing to do with, there's no reason why taxpayers in Maine should be paying for airplane rides for kids in California. Um, but the non-government aspect of it obviously means it is not under any government control. The organization is not part of the Department of Education or Treasury or Energy or any of the rest of these things. So I mean, I get your point. It's obviously a kind of a sarcastic point. It's like they call themselves non-government agencies, but they're getting paid from the government. This is not only a scandal, a moral scandal. This is also, I think, an extremely precarious legal position for the NGOs, because the NGOs have to have a charitable purpose. And if I mean, take the I think it's Chelsea Clinton's foundation, feeding Haitians meals, right? Chelsea gets $10 million from the foundation to renovate her mansion, or to update her whatever once she gets married. The foundation gets millions of dollars from the government. Chelsea takes $10 million for her house, and then another $3 million for her wedding. But she does have to pay. She does have to buy Haitians lunch or food, right? Otherwise, she's not. The 501c3 is not executing its so-called charitable purpose. But what they did was they did the math on the amount of money that they actually spent on feeding Haitians. They found out that each meal that was served to the Haitians cost $1,480. That's because the amount of money that went into the foundation was $15 million, and they did 400 lunches, and each lunch was $1,700, whatever the numbers were, right? That is a fraudulent use of a 501c3. 501c3s are tax exempt, and when I filed for the 501c3, it was a great company called the Foundation Group, and they've gotten 14,000 501c3s approved and with zero losses. So they don't take cases that they don't think are legitimate, but they were very strict about this. You know, it's like you have to have an independent board, and you can't be on it, and all of these things. Because needless to say, it'd be easier for me to raise money in memberships if I could make them tax deductible. But just the fact that I would have to be non-political puts that out of range. But my point is, we can cut off the money, but I think we're going to find that the amount of salaries that are paid through these charitable organizations compared to what they spend on the charity, if it turns out that 95% of the money you raise goes to salaries and 5% goes to feeding Haitian kids, that's fraud. It's tax fraud, and it's just plain fraud. And I kind of think there's 501c4, I think, is the political category. But I would like to see her go to jail, because I don't like the fact that I paid for Chelsea Clinton's mansion. I don't like the fact that they took money away from me to pay for her mansion. It pisses me off a lot, because unlike most of you, I do get invoiced and have to write checks for $10,000 quarterly. And it's just. It is going to be the greatest scandal in American history. I mean, the previous winner was the Teapot Dome thing, which was stealing in New York City. But this is just a joke compared to what we're seeing. Okay, so here's a super chat from Kasama one for $5. Says, now Trump's going to be impeached again for beating another woman. That makes 3 now. Amen. I think that's. I always love that he was impeached because he beat 2 women, thrashed them. And Sun Wukong of the super chat says, former chief actually had a good resume, but was a Wokey. Generals all struggle with Trump. That Mattis struggled says something. In other news, the Army has been stealing 66.7 of food pay from troops. This kind of thing is the kind of thing that's going to make the country, conservatives especially, go from being on fire to being no prisoners. If it turns out that we find, and it looks very clear that we're going to find out that money that should have been allocated as a food expense to troops, the Army was keeping some of that or refusing to pay legitimate expenses or something like that, and we find out it's going to, I hold people in uniform to a higher standard than civilians. I like to think that they're made of better stuff, and so if I find a politician who engages in criminal activity like Hillary or Chelsea, I want to see them stand trial, and if the presumption of innocence is overcome and they are found guilty, I want them to go to jail. I want them to get a fair trial, and presumption of innocence is on their side and all of that. But if it turns out they're found guilty, I'd like to see them go to jail. If it turns out that military people are doing this, I'd like to have the same things done, but I'd like to use the military code of justice. And more importantly, and this applies especially to Millie, I want to see them broken. I want to see them broken in rank. Millie committed treason. It is treason. It is not. It's like a casebook definition of treason to say that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is on record as saying that if the United States had plans to attack an adversary, he was going to inform the adversary of the attack because he didn't agree with the political leadership of the United States that he's sworn to uphold. That's treason. So Millie needs to be tried for treason. And people have pointed out he's already left the military, but last night on the show somebody said he could be recalled to duty. It's possible to recall him to duty. And I think he needs to be recalled to duty so that he can put on his 4-star uniform and then break him to buck private. I want to see him stripped of those stars. I want to see those stars coming off of him. I want to see his face when they pull those stars off. I want a ceremony. And I saw something. I don't watch a lot of Sargon of Akkad at all. I generally don't watch a lot of people. The little bits I have seen were very good, but I saw something from him last night after the show was over, where he basically was saying to the left, he's saying, you created this Trump movement and everything. He said, Trump is tearing down your world. The stuff that you've been trying to build since the 60s, but really since Obama, the stuff that you've been building for 16 years, they're destroying overnight. He's saying the right is coming for you, and this time the right doesn't care what you think. The right just doesn't care. You can call them racist all you want to. You can call them misogynist, homophobic, transphobic, all of it. Doesn't matter. This time they're coming for you, and they're going to burn you to the ground. And Sargon said, he said, you're going to be, because you refuse to take them seriously, because you refuse to show them the respect that they deserved as your countrymen, because you called them racist rather than arguing with them, and Nazis and all the rest, they no longer care. They are coming to burn you down, and you can say, hey, wait a minute, let's reason this over, or let's talk about it, or maybe we should slow down on this investigation of government waste, and they're not listening anymore. They don't care anymore. He said, you've sown the wind, now you're going to reap the whirlwind. And he said, and Trump is going to delegate you to the same trash heap of history as the Carolingians or any of these other religious sects of the Middle Ages. You're going to go the way of the essentially of the Druids. You're going to be some footnote where people will look back on your philosophy. And he said, and by the way, and your philosophy is insane, and everybody knows it. And people are going to look back on the first 2 decades of the first quarter of the 21st century, and they're going to say, yeah, there was this cult, this weird cult that had taken over most of the West, and it achieved actual dominance for 25 years. And people are going to look at it the way they look at the Klan, the dominance of the Klan. That it was a group of lunatics who gained power because the whole world went crazy, and then people just suddenly woke up, and he said basically woke leftism is going to be as relevant a century from now as asceticism or the Pythagoreans are. So there's that. The Cathars and the Bogomils. That's it. That's an educated fellow. And I remember when he said Cathars and Bogomils, I just really laughed out loud. I was watching a little clip from Dave Chappelle, and Dave Chappelle, he's a genius. Dave Chappelle was, this kid related to nothing, was playing his Pib character, Silky Johnson. And he said, now if you'll excuse me, I've got to go home and put some water in your mom's dog dish. He didn't even say dog dish. He says, I got to go home and put some water in your mom's dish. It's just great. What was, I had another insult that was just, I really, Chappelle's a genuine genius. Genuine genius. Firewaker says, did I know Gene Scott? No, I didn't. I'm afraid that name doesn't do anything for me. Sorry. So, yeah, the player hit his ball. It was great. It was great. Yeah, I was laughing out loud on that one. All right. Let's see. We got a Marisha Dark here, and then we go to the next page. Let me see how many we got on the next page. Hang on a second. I'm sure we can get it done. I just want to make sure. We got a Eric Blake. We got a Fire Waco. We got a Matt. Bucket 5. We got a Roadrunner. You know what, Marisha? I'm gonna pass on this one because we've done one already, and I'm just gonna keep it to one each tonight. I think. Let me have a look at it again. Well, I said I'd do them all. I'll try and do them all. Sun Wukong says Chappelle is more woke than Bill Burr. Yeah, but Chappelle is genuinely funny, and Chappelle is fair. I heard Chappelle on Saturday Night Live talking about Trump when Trump went up to Hillary and said, you know, of course I don't pay all the taxes I could, you know, and neither do you, and neither do your supporters. And Trump and Chappelle said, damn. You know, he's not a blind hater. I really like him. All right, I'll do this one too. Marisha Dark, Art of the Deal. We know that Trump uses the technique of a big ask in negotiations with his enemies, but do you think he uses it against his supporters as well? Deport them all became comprehensive immigration reform. I'm not aware it became comprehensive immigration reform. As far as I can see, he's working his way down, but we'll see how far that goes. Build the wall became improved border security. Many wanted U.S. aid abolished. Instead, it was rolled into the State Department. I don't really buy any one of those three as him backing out of his commitment or walking his commitment back. There are elements to U.S. aid that do things like feed starving people around the world, and I think that the U.S. government does have a place to do something that is genuine need on behalf of the American people. Most of the charity in the world comes from the private sector of American people, but in any event, I don't get the sense that Trump is walking back his commitment to these things. I'm not tired of winning, and this is the most hopeful I've ever been about American politics, but should we be wary of Trump's recent promises, whether it's about auditing the Fed, abolishing the Department of Education, or ending income taxes? These are big asks which will ultimately roll back into something better than what we had, but not amazingly phenomenal. In other words, should we temper our expectations or continue to dream big? Here's the thing about Trump. Trump is a savvy guy. He really understands people's reactions. So when Trump does the big ask against an adversary, it's designed to knock him off balance. If Trump were to say, you know, maybe we should abolish the IRS, and he's not serious about it, then where's the win in that for him? I think he's too savvy to do that. I don't see Trump being stupid enough to threaten to abolish the IRS if he doesn't plan to abolish the IRS. Because all he does is get his base's hopes up and then disappoint them. He's not shown any sign of doing any disappointing. So, like I said, you know, they didn't cancel. U.S. aid was eliminated. I mean, USAID doesn't exist anymore. It's been some of the functions of USAID. Well, maybe it still exists as a subdivision of the State Department, but but if they fire 14,000 employees and they keep 293, I'm perfectly happy with that. And if the argument is, well, we didn't sack all of it because some of what it did was what it was supposed to have done in the first place, which is help people who are in real need around the world and deliver food supplies and stuff and show America is is Uncle Sam and freedom and all that good stuff, then I think that's a reasonable thing. I think it would have been unreasonable to completely trash USAID because some of the things it did, a few of the things it did, were worthwhile. And apparently it turns out that the number of things that USAID did that were worthwhile could be accomplished with less than 1% of the staff, really 0.4% of the total staff. Great, move them over to state and get back to doing what you're supposed to be doing. When you say build the wall became improved border security, I've not heard Donald Trump say that he plans to not build the wall. I haven't heard anything that says, yeah, we're not going to build the wall, we're just going to have improved border security. So, if you'd have a case if he said, yeah, I don't know if we really need to build a wall, but he hasn't said that, and he's certainly not acting that way. It is proceeding apace. And then, lower taxes is one thing, but getting rid of the IRS is the other. He has floated this idea a couple of times. I don't see where he has any kind of a win by promising something and not delivering on it. That's just the essence of a promotional guy. It's certainly probably my greatest weakness is I get so enthusiastic for things and I don't have the mental discipline to shut up about these things until I can deliver them. So Donald Trump has been successful by under promising and over delivering, and I'm just the opposite. And I'm not happy about that. But in any event, to answer your question, I have seen no evidence or heard any evidence that he is blowing smoke at his supporters because he's a smart businessman, and a savvy businessman asks for more than he wants from somebody he's negotiating against. But a savvy businessman doesn't harm himself when he doesn't have to. If he just wanted to roll back taxes, he would talk about making severe cuts to the IRS. To talk about eliminating the IRS means it's at least on the table. So, we'll see. We'll see. Thank you for that, Janie. It's the little things in life that keep me going. Chris Potter says, you have my word. If we get $5,000 payments, I will seek you out in Bill Whittle's chats and eat crow. So there's a discussion there that I lost the thread of. If we get $5,000 checks from the government, I'm going to be making an appeal for a membership. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say it's $120 a year. Could you do 1 year with us and then or 6 months with us and see, get $5,000? We're trying our very best to highlight this, the philosophy behind why we should have smaller government, and so I'm gonna sink my teeth into that sweet, sweet, sweet government money. Most of which is probably mine anyway. Okay, thank you very much. Chris Potter saying that he's saying that $5,000 is not financially feasible from Doge savings. What's that number come to? Because it's not per person, it's per taxpayer is how I understand it. Because to be honest with you, I thought $5,000 seemed a little low. I would like a percentage of my previous taxes refunded to me if they can prove that 30% of the government was fraudulently spent, tax money was fraudulently spent. I'd like a 30% refund. So we'll see. And they haven't done anything yet when they take a big bite out of it. J-Doc says, if it's anything less than $5,000, you blame it on the Democrats for being mean. Again, he's not an idiot, you know, not on this level. Donald Trump is certainly quick to shoot his mouth off. And by the way, Trump 2.0 is infinitely more disciplined about what he tweets than Trump 1.0. 85 million taxpayers. Okay, so somebody want to just multiply that times 5,000 for me? I should have been able to do that in my head. But 770 billion. Okay, I think they're going to find that much. Yeah, and half goes to the debt. Kasama says Doge is looking to save 2.7 trillion in the next 2 years. I want to know what happened to that $4.5 trillion that went to unallocated funds. I want that money found, and I believe that money can be found. Google said 153 million taxpayers last year, so whatever. He's not. My point is, Trump is not going to say $5,000 when he could only afford $3,000, and he's not going to say $5,000 if he thinks he could reasonably send $10,000. So we'll see. We'll see. We got an Eric Blake. Let me just do the counting so I can have an idea. Eric Blake, Fire Waco, Matt, Bucka 5, Roadrunner, and that's it. Okay, we can do those. Eric Blake, now watch this question becomes prophecy for next week. Tonight, hopefully, the case of the civics conundrum. So, Bill, who's been a question I've been dwelling on more and more since Linda McMahon got confirmed as Secretary of Education. Conservatives en masse have pretty much been glossing over the question of what should Linda do in her position before the department gets dissolved, pretty much because they haven't considered it a question at all. Why not just dissolve it? Well, would that it were so simple. It's almost like sign an executive order to put an end to an executive orders. Sounds sexy, but first things first, you got to clean up everything caused by the bad executive's orders before you came in. See Trump's endless winning lately being in large part via executive orders. So, at the very least, I'd say Linda should impose a mandate on the national education system to bring back civics, social studies classes. In large part, the abandonment of those classes is a key reason that the younger generations have declined. They've not been taught what it means to be an American. So if nothing else, bring back civic, social studies, then dissolve the Department of Education. What say you? I think this is actually a really good point. I think this is an excellent point. While the Department of Education still has the authority over individual education departments, yeah, make the last thing that happens before the ship goes down is it fires off, fires a couple rounds at the sub that has surfaced, that sank it. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. While you still have the Department of Education mandate civics requirement, mandate universal standardized testing, mandate penalties predicated on their inability to graduate students, not just to graduate. See, this is the thing. They counted a success if they graduate students. It's like putting boxes out at a factory. It's like they don't care if the stuff in the box is there. They don't care if it's broken. They don't care if the box is empty. As long as they get the right number of boxes out the doors, they think they're fine. No, I think you have to do it. Copy Shinato says Massey has a bill to abolish it effective 12/31/2026. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it seems like we have to. I don't want to watch the momentum slide, and then again at the same time, I just want to keep these people off their toes. Wesley Bruce with a super chat says a bunch of people in Australia are looking into which Australian leftist and Green parties got money through USAID. Huge scandal down here, but the news won't cover it. Without USAID, they can't run later this year. See, this is what I was talking about the headwinds, the political headwinds that we're facing. We've been financing our own headwinds, and now we're not. So, who could see? Yeah, it's a good idea, Eric. Make conservative mandates, have them enforced, and then cut the wire. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Marisha says it's going to be rhinos in Congress that F this up again for us. Hang on a second. Just trying to catch something here. Okay. Yeah, Lady Jane Waterman says we've been, Lady Janie Waterman, we've been paying to control and corrupt the whole world. That's right. Well, we've been paying the left in order to, our left pays the Australian left. And yes, that's taken away the rights of Australian citizens. We help pay for that. Red Rider says, and we're pissed. We are. We're pissed, and we're pissed in the American sense, not in the British sense. They're going to be pissed in the British sense. They're going to be just drunk off their asses because they won't know how to deal with the. Sargon's thing was great. These people are coming after you, and they are out of mercy. They've been demonized too long, and they're going to burn you to the ground. I loved it. It was great. Let's see. Fiery Waco. Bill, did you hear about the worldwide American choice opportunity? The Waco plan would end the war, the other war, and the next war. Here's the plan. Okay, haven't heard about this, even though you sent me something about it. The plan. The worldwide American choice opportunity plan, a proposal for peace. The crisis. Ukraine's war drags on. Lives lost, homes ruined, futures at risk. We need a solution. The plan offers a referendum to all in Ukraine. One question. Join the U.S. as the 51st state or go it alone. Everyone votes. Ukrainian citizens, Russian settlers, and Russian troops in occupied zones. The choice. Democracy, not force. Let the people decide their fate. Statehood means U.S. citizenship, security, opportunity. If yes, Ukraine joins us. Congress acts. Their leaders govern and we build together. Russia fumes, but their proxies become our taxpayers. Irony. The proof. Referendums work. Puerto Rico, Scotland show it. Texas becomes a state. Everyone immediately was an American. Ukraine's ready. America's generous enough to welcome them. The impact. The war ends with ballots, not bullets. Gaza might be next. Hope spreads. Offer the ballot. End the war. What my immediate look at this is, if you offer a referendum to the Ukrainians and say join the U.S. as the 51st state, I think they'd probably say no, but we should be terrified about what happens if they say yes. If Ukraine were to become the 51st state, then obviously the United States would have to put boots on the ground to defend our state against Russian aggression. And just the fact that Ukraine would become the 51st state, if you think that means that the Russians just pack up and leave, I think on the contrary, I think it would cause them to, I think it would cause the Russian people to switch from being very opposed to the war to realizing they can't have the archenemy on their border. And I think Russians would see the same kind of recruiting gains that America saw after Pearl Harbor. It doesn't sound like a good risk to me. Now, as a bargaining chip, however, in the way that we talked last night about how Donald Trump offering to, basically saying that Gaza Strip's going to be an American Riviera, America's going to take over Gaza and build this Riviera there. As a bargaining chip, it broke the back of Hamas. It said, you are not going to continue to be fighting against Israel. It's not going to be status quo. You're going to be displaced by Americans. You're going to have to deal with America now. And it was designed to dislodge a political position that they have stuck with for 80 years now. The reason that wars don't end is because neither side, until one side is utterly defeated, neither side wants to surrender. It is a perfect example of the sunk cost fallacy. I think if Russia could have known what it was going to cost to invade Ukraine, Russia would not have invaded. I think if you're going to offer to make it into a 51st state as an example, then what you're basically saying is we're coming in to smash the paradigm. Okay? Our position is we're sick of this. We're going to smash the paradigm. We are going to change the situation on the ground so fundamentally that nothing that has come before makes any sense anymore at all. So, if that's the plan, then I'm in favor of that kind of talk. And frankly, I think what Trump is doing right now with Russia is the exact opposite of what this is. I think what Trump is doing with Russia is trying to scare Ukraine into making concessions that Ukraine cannot make because Ukraine is pot committed. Ukraine has lost so many people and so many lives, and they can't just walk away from this, and Russia can't just walk away from it either. They have to have they have to have their faces rubbed in the fact that neither one of them are going to get what they want. Um, uh, so I don't I don't want a 51st state in anywhere near the Balkans. I know Ukraine is not technically the Balkans, but that whole southern Europe uh, kind of corner of the world has has been legendary for just endless wars and so on. And so, as I said, as a statement designed to shock people, is he serious? I think it's awesome. But if you really are serious about putting up a referendum and Ukrainians voted to become the 51st state, um, I don't see how that does us any good. Um, I would like to see a lot more Ukrainian and Russian immigrants to the United States, because I know most of these people from my association with my U.S. citizen wife, who original passports from the Russian Federation, and these are people who are very religious, extremely moral, very, very civic-minded in terms of clean streets and no homeless people and no crime. A lot of advanced technical skills. My wife's a world-class photographer, for example. There's a lot of really talented people over there who share our values, and I'd love to see more immigration from people who get America rather than people who want to get to America in order to pick up all the sweet, sweet benefits. But I don't know. It sounds to me like a recipe for well, Sad Wings Raging says Europe going to Europe, and I don't know. We'll see. So, if, as JDoc says, shouldn't have threatened Russia in the first place with making Ukraine part of NATO. If it's one thing if Russia would, if NATO were, if Trump has said that NATO membership for Ukraine is off the table forever. That's what Russia needed to hear in order for Russia to come to the table. That was the one thing that Russia needed to hear for Russia to come to the table. If it were not clearly, if Ukraine became an American state rather than a NATO ally, that's more of a threat to Russia. Hang on a second. Here's a Babylon Bee. Is this Trump map of the world? I'm just having a look here. This map of Trump's map of the world, the ocean. It's not just the Gulf of America. It's a Babylon Bee map, apparently. The Atlantic has been renamed the Ocean of America, and the Pacific has been renamed the Other Ocean of America. The Soviet Union, Russia has been renamed the country America beat to the moon. China is called the 100-Acre Wood. Japan is MacArthur Island. Australia is America written upside down. All of Africa is dark MAGA. And all of Europe is considered the Middle East. The actual Middle East is called Bible Land. It's great. It's just great. Wesley Bruce for Super Chat says Trump and Zelensky are making a fake conflict to confuse Putin, get him overconfident, and divide him from the Russian people, speaking to the Russian propaganda, knowing that most don't believe it but can't say it. Yeah, there's a lot of three-dimensional chess going on, and he's a master at it. They think he's a buffoon and a fool, but he's a deal maker. He's already shown. Donald Trump is the perfect person to wield the power of the United States. If you want that map, you can get it and print it. I'm sure it's really good. Oh, the North Pole is America's Santa's workshop. And Antarctica is America's freezer. Yeah, it's great. I love the Ocean of America versus and then the Pacific is the Other Ocean of America. The Ocean of America is just epic. And the Indian Ocean is still part of the Ocean of America. They all connect anyway. South Africa is Muskville. Okay, let's get these done here. We got Matt Bucka 5, Roadrunner 2 to go on our special Saturday night special here. Matt Bucka 5, greetings, Bill. I wanted to know if you've been following Boom Technologies XB1 test flights. Yes, I have. Not terribly closely, but I have. They're building the next supersonic passenger jet, the Overture. Yes, we did a right angle on them about 3, 4, 5 months ago. I'm a big believer in companies like Boom Aerospace and Anduril. Yeah. The recent flight of their XB1 was the first successful privately designed and built aircraft to break the sound barrier, as well as the first supersonic flight not to have a sonic boom detectable from the ground. This is the holy grail, because the real appeal of supersonic flight is not transatlantic or transpacific flight. It's nice to take a 8-hour flight down to a 3-hour flight, but really, the real money would be, can I fly from Los Angeles to New York in an hour and a half instead of 5.5? There you go. This relates to politics because the CEO has been petitioning the Trump administration on X, offering to build a supersonic Air Force One, considering all of the delays from Boeing. Freaking great. A supersonic Air Force One. Now, it's not a terribly, obviously a supersonic aircraft. There's probably, the 747 is perfect for Air Force One. It's got world-beating range. You can fly from one place in the world to another place in the world. It's got plenty of room. It's huge. There's a lot of electronics in that aircraft, and it is essentially a floating hotel and embassy, a flying hotel and embassy, I should say. So I really think that is cool. But I think that the idea of a supersonic aircraft. By the way, the 747 is not Air Force One. Air Force One is whatever aircraft the president is on. So if the president's doing a shorter domestic flight and he wants to fly a 757, doesn't happen too often, whatever. But if he flies an Air Force 757, then that becomes Air Force One. Technically speaking, he could fly an Air Force, come on, Bill. Excuse me. He could probably fly a Air Force Cessna 172, and that would become Air Force One. But the idea of having a supersonic transport that is in the president's livery, and please, for God's sakes, Donald Trump, the only thing I'm asking you, and I don't have any right to ask after all you've done, but please don't change Air Force One. It's the most beautiful plane in the world. It's just gorgeous. The 747. Don't go with that new paint design. It's just tacky. It's really nasty. Soft pastel colors, yeah, but it's elegant. It's graceful, and that's what you want. You're visiting other people's countries. You're a guest in their countries. Show them our best side. That's the walk softly part of carrying a big stick. We all know what the big stick looks like. It's like Air Force One should be the walk softly. There you go. This relates to politics because the CEO has been petitioning the Trump administration. Yeah. So I think that it's really smart business sense from Boom to offer the President of the United States his own supersonic transport. If you want political favors, that's just really, really good. Ace Effendi says, give Air Force One an orange toupee. Yeah, just cover the whole top of the airplane with a orange fabric that flaps in the wind. That would be cool. Well, if you're going to change Air Force One because you think it's too soft, then make it just a black airplane with a gigantic eagle, and the front of the airplane is eagle with a scream, and then instead of it saying United States of America on the side, it says death from above. That's if you're going to go down that road, then you should commit to it. Yeah, death from above. I think it'd be great. Anyway, yeah, we endanger species. Yeah, Air Force One should be a B-52. Steve Whoop says you should paint Muerte Arriba on it. It means here comes death. It's funny. Richard Kelch is a name we don't see too often. Says the 777 and 787 are more cost effective. 747 was awesome, but no longer practical as a passenger jet. Yes, but the Air Force One doesn't have to be practical. And I like having a 4-engine Air Force One in case it eats a Sidewinder. I think there's a good chance that a 747 could survive at least something as small as a warhead as a Sidewinder. It could maybe even eat a AMRAAM. It'd be an interesting experiment to see how many air-to-air missiles 747 could eat. I know when you shoot down or when you shoot at Russian AWACS, you'll often get a hit and knock out a couple of engines, but it'll keep on going. So who knows? We'll see. And then finally, Miss Super Chat. Thank you, Roadrunner. Greetings, friend Bill. I was wondering if you saw Argentina President Javier Milei, I can't give that. We know the guy. Presented a chainsaw to Elon Musk at CPAC this week. Yes, it's great. He famously used a chainsaw as a metaphor about cutting the size of his government. I thought it was genius for him to present one to Elon for the same purpose. Yep, it's chrome, and I think it says Doge on it. So much fun watching the progressive media melt down whenever something like this happens. CNN called it a stunt. The New Republic called it cringy. HuffPost called it cringed AF. That means cringed as F. President Trump has been president for only 1 month. How are the progressives going to make it for the next 47 months? I hope they don't. I hope they all just live up to their words and leave. That would be just great. I think the president ought to have his own Air Force One livery Dragon capsule, because if you really need to get from point A to point B in a big hurry, you got to get out of the atmosphere. So, if Trump needed to be, like, really, really needed to be in Japan, Musk could get him there in probably 45 minutes. Yeah, probably 45 minutes. Just have the Japanese have a destroyer waiting off the coast, and just launch this thing. Is that true, Dave Big Boutte? Starship launched this Wednesday? I thought they were looking at somewhere around March 10th. They moved it forward. That's what he heard. Starship launches this Wednesday. All right. Freaking great. That last one was kind of disappointing, huh? I guess they're going to go back to... I haven't seen any of... what is it? What about it? And Felix, I was watching him a lot. I haven't seen him in a couple, 3 weeks since the last launch, actually. So, yeah, we'll see. That'd be cool. Here's the thing, Roadrunner. They're not used to being in a panic. And again, I can't recommend this most recent thing called Reap the Whirlwind by Sargon of Akkad enough. It really is he's just basically speaking to the left, like he's just talking to them directly and saying, you could have avoided all of this, You thought you were going to rule forever, and you insulted them and refused to treat them even as people, let alone as treating them as in good faith. So now they don't care anymore. Now they're coming for you, and they're going to burn everything you built to the ground. You have no one to blame but yourselves. It's like, great. I want to see it. I saw on my Facebook scroll something from a person I went to school with who's a liberal, somebody I went to the University of Florida with the second time I was there. I'll link the video. Give me a second. And they were basically saying chaos in Yosemite. There's nobody controlling the parks. The park's out of control. And I thought, that's funny. They haven't gotten to the Department of Interior yet. How is Doge cuts affecting, causing chaos at Yosemite? And I realized, to the degree that there might be chaos at Yosemite, it is a form of malicious compliance, right? This is a form of the people in agencies that have not been cut yet saying, okay, well, you want to cut the government, then we're not going to have any forest rangers out there. It's like, go cry somewhere else. We're done. You can defend this larceny all you want to. I don't care. We just don't care anymore. That's the great thing about it. It's like the left is wailing and screaming and usual. This is unconstitutional. It's constitutional rape. We don't care. We don't care. He's a felon. I don't care about that either. This is the people who are crying about finding waste are the people who are benefiting from waste. If the Democrats had any sense at all, they would be saying, well, we disagree with Donald Trump on many things, but cutting waste, there's no way to argue that. We're 100% in favor of making sure that we cut waste so that we can have as many social programs as possible. That's what they should do, but they didn't because they can't. So, there you go. And hey, Heidi ho, and that's the end of our questions. So I think that'll do it. Yes, honest people are happy about finding ways, says Janie, and she's right. So let it be written, so let it be done. I got this referee shirt going. If these things were solid white, I'd just be a zebra. But it's got kind of a cool, kind of a spade kind of thing going there. So I think that'll do it. So so we had a special show to catch up on the questions. So 5.5 hours of Stratosphere Lounge this week, and if you throw in Stratosphere Studio, we're pushing 8 hours of live content. Trumper, the sweaty fat guy, says, I had my appendix removed yesterday, went to get my meds at the local RX I go to, and the VA and Medicare was declined for the first time since I got my disability rating. Malicious compliance. I'm sorry to hear that, dude. I hope you're feeling better, and I hope especially that they're not keeping you off of pain meds. But if they are, and you're in the VA, then you are you're man enough to take it. Although God knows you, of all people, shouldn't have to. That's just disgusting. And okay, that's who they want to be. That's fine. It makes me more angry, not less angry. The more you want to fight this, the better I like it. I will say hi to Bean for you. That's great. Sun Wukong, last minute super chat. Okay, and Tara, is that we wouldn't care because we would be the racists? Thank God we're not. We're not. And whether they say we are or not, don't care anymore. Don't care. Say whatever you want to. Lady Janie Waterman says, praying for a sweaty fat guy. My dad used the VA. Yeah. And Kasama 001 with a super chat says, left is always crying about felons not having opportunity in America. Well, felon became president. That's exactly right. And the founding fathers, in their infinite wisdom, I remember when they were first talking about these charges, and I had to go look because I wasn't 100% sure. I was pretty sure. But they did not say that the president of the United States cannot be a felon. So they got it right. Okay, so that'll do it, I guess. We'll thank, as usual, our members for being members, and those of you who aren't members for sticking around and having fun and listening to other people's questions. And it's been fun doing a Saturday night show. So we did 3 this week. So we are kicking ass and taking names. So we will see you Monday night, and I'm going to see if I can't broadcast from the fabulous Story Mechanics set, which is pretty much ready to go. So that'll do it. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll say goodnight to our friends over on YouTube first. YouTube, thanks for being with us. It's a fun Saturday night. Not as much fun as watching the Friday night Follies with Doomcock, because break into song at any given moment. I need to start picking that up because I can sing Super Chicken theme, so that's a start, I think. Until then, we'll see you guys on Monday. So good night, YouTube, and take care.